The email landed in my inbox with the soft chime of a notification, a sound utterly incongruous with the sledgehammer blow its contents delivered. I was sitting in the sterile quiet of the airport departure lounge, my carry-on nestled at my feet, the boarding pass for Florence clutched in my hand like a golden ticket. Or, rather, our golden ticket. This trip to Tuscany, meticulously planned for months, was supposed to be our romantic escape, a celebration of 5 years together. Instead, Liam's words, typed out in cold, impersonal font, declared our 5 years null and void. I can't do this anymore, Clara. I've met someone else. I'm sorry. Sorry. The word felt like grit in my mouth. My vision blurred, the bustling airport scene dissolving into a watery haze. Just like that, the future I'd envisioned, rolling Tuscan hills viewed hand in hand, candlelit dinners under starry Italian skies, shared laughter over Chianti, shattered into a million irreparable pieces. My first instinct was to crumple, to dissolve into a puddle of grief right there on the uncomfortable airport chair. To run home, crawl under the duvet, and let the world fade away. But the final boarding call for Florence echoed through the lounge. My bags were checked. The agriturismo nestled amongst vineyards near San Gimignano was booked and paid for, non-refundable, of course. A bitter laugh escaped me. Liam, ever so practical, had let me handle all the bookings. Now, I was left holding the itinerary to a ghost relationship, a solo ticket to the romantic heartland of Italy. Somehow, numbly, I moved. Feet shuffling, heart pounding a frantic, panicked rhythm against my ribs, I walked down the jet bridge. The flight was a blur of recycled air, engine drone, and the relentless loop of Liam's betrayal playing in my mind. Anger warred with a profound, aching sadness. How could he? After everything? The sheer cowardice of ending it via email, just hours before our dream trip, it was a fresh wound layered upon the deeper one of infidelity. Landing in Florence didn't dispel the fog. If anything, the vibrant chaos of the Amerigo Vespucci airport, the melodic babble of Italian voices, the warmth of the Tuscan sun hitting my face as I stepped outside, it all felt like a cruel mockery. This beauty wasn't meant for me, not alone, not with this gaping hole in my chest. Picking up the rental car, navigating the unfamiliar roads out of the city and into the countryside felt like an out-of-body experience. My hands gripped the steering wheel, my eyes registered the signs pointing towards Siena, but my mind was elsewhere, lost in the wreckage of my life. Finally, following winding roads flanked by sentinel cypress trees and fields bursting with sunflowers beginning to droop under the late summer sun, I found it, Agriturismo El Paghetto. It was even more picturesque than the photos, a cluster of old stone buildings draped in ivy, terracotta pots overflowing with geraniums, the scent of wood smoke and rosemary hanging in the air. Signora Elena, the owner, a woman with kind eyes etched with laugh lines and flour dusting her apron, greeted me with a warm buongiorno. Her smile faltered slightly when she realized I was alone, glancing expectantly behind me. I forced a brittle smile. Just me, I managed, the words catching in my throat. The pity in her eyes was almost unbearable. She showed me to my room, rustic, charming, with a heavy wooden beam ceiling and a window overlooking rows upon rows of grapevines, heavy with ripening fruit. It was perfect. Perfectly, achingly wrong. I dropped my bags, sank onto the edge of the bed, and finally let the tears fall, silent sobs shaking my shoulders in the golden afternoon light of Tuscany. This wasn't the beginning I had dreamed of, it felt like the end. Sunrise painted the vineyards in strokes of rose and gold, a masterpiece framed by my window. I'd cried myself to sleep, exhaustion finally wrestling my grief into submission, but woke with the familiar hollow ache in my chest. Liam's phantom presence lingered in the room, his imagined laugh echoing off the terracotta floor, his absence a palpable weight beside me in the large, empty bed. For a long moment, I stayed there, tangled in the crisp sheets, tempted to let the Tuscan sun climb the sky without me, to surrender the day before it had even begun. But then, the distant tolling of church bells drifted through the open window, followed by the cheerful clatter of Signora Elena setting up breakfast in the courtyard below. The smell of strong coffee and baking bread wafted upwards. Hunger, a basic, undeniable physical need, stirred within me. It felt like a betrayal of my own misery to even consider eating, but the alternative, starving myself in a beautiful Italian farmhouse, seemed pointlessly self-destructive. Maybe, just maybe, survival was its own form of defiance. Dragging myself out of bed, I splashed cold water on my puffy face and pulled on the simplest clothes I could find. Descending the worn stone steps into the courtyard felt like emerging from a cave. Signora Elena looked up from arranging slices of pecorino cheese and fig jam on a platter. Her smile was gentle, tinged with understanding, not pity this time. "Buongiorno, Clara. Dormito bene? Did you sleep well?" "Sì, grazie," I mumbled, the lie tasting like ash. She didn't press, simply gestured towards a small table set under a pergola heavy with grapevines. The breakfast was simple but exquisite: crusty bread still warm from the oven, local honey, fresh ricotta, fruit bursting with flavor, and that life-affirming coffee. As I ate, forcing myself to chew and swallow, I watched the other guests, a German couple quietly reading, an older American pair discussing their plans to visit Siena. They all seemed cocooned in their own contentment, highlighting my solitude. A wave of anger, sharp and hot, surged through me. Anger at Liam for putting me here, for stealing this experience, for making me feel like an outcast in paradise. But beneath the anger, something else stirred, a flicker of resolve. He'd taken my future, yes, but did he have to take this trip too? Did he get to ruin Tuscany for me? After breakfast, clutching a map Signora Elena had pressed into my hand with a knowing nod, "San Gimignano, it is very beautiful. Good for the soul." I drove the short distance to the famed hilltop town. Parking outside the ancient walls, I walked through one of the stone gates and stepped back in time. Towers pierced the brilliant blue sky, narrow cobblestone alleys twisted and turned, opening onto sun-drenched piazzas. The air buzzed with Italian chatter, the scent of leather goods from the artisan shops, and the irresistible aroma of gelato. I wandered aimlessly at first, an observer behind a veil of sadness. I saw couples holding hands, families laughing, groups of friends sharing jokes. Each scene was a tiny pinprick to my wounded heart. I found myself drawn into the cool, echoing interior of the Collegiata di Santa Maria Assunta, staring up at the vibrant, centuries-old frescoes depicting biblical scenes. Surrounded by such enduring art, such history that had weathered countless storms, my own heartbreak felt both immense and infinitesimally small. Later, sitting alone on the steps of the Piazza del Duomo, nursing a pistachio gelato that tasted like pure sunshine, a small shift occurred. It wasn't happiness, not even close. But it was a quiet acknowledgement of the beauty surrounding me, a beauty that existed independently of my pain. The warm stone beneath me, the swallows dipping and soaring overhead, the sheer, stubborn persistence of this medieval town clinging to its hill, it seeped into me, a subtle balm. I was still heartbroken, still adrift, but for the first time since that devastating email, I felt a tentative connection to the world outside my own hurt. Perhaps, I thought, licking the last drop of gelato from the spoon, Tuscany wasn't ruined. Perhaps it was just different. A solo journey, not of romance, but of something else entirely. What that something else might be, I had no idea. The following days unfolded with a rhythm dictated by the sun and my own inclinations, no longer solely by the ghost of what should have been. The raw wound of Liam's betrayal remained, but it was scarring over, replaced by a quiet determination to absorb every drop of Tuscan magic I could. I started treating the trip not as a salvage operation, but as an unexpected gift to myself. Encouraged by Signora Elena, I joined her impromptu pasta-making session in the farmhouse kitchen. My hands, clumsy at first, gradually learned the feel of the dough, the satisfying rhythm of kneading and shaping orecchiette alongside the cheerful chatter of Elena and her visiting cousin. Laughter, genuine and unforced, bubbled up in my chest as I ended up dusted in flour, my creations decidedly rustic but made with my own two hands. Sharing the simple, delicious meal afterwards in the warm kitchen felt like a communion, a quiet acceptance into a circle of everyday Italian life. I explored further afield, getting deliberately lost on the white gravel roads, the strada bianca, that snaked through vineyards and olive groves. I visited Siena, standing awestruck in the vast Piazza del Campo, imagining the thundering hooves of the Palio horse race. I spent hours sketching the rolling landscapes in a small notebook, capturing the cypress trees standing like dark green exclamation points against the ochre earth. The act of observing, of translating the beauty onto paper, felt meditative, anchoring me firmly in the present moment. It was during one such sketching session, perched on a low stone wall overlooking a particularly stunning vista near the agriturismo, that I met Marco. He worked part-time helping Signora Elena's husband in the vineyards, his hands stained purple from the early grape harvest. He didn't interrupt, just leaned against a nearby olive tree, watching the landscape with a familiar ease. When I finally capped my pen, he offered a quiet comment in hesitant English about the light changing over the hills. Unlike the pity or awkwardness I'd sometimes encountered, Marco's presence was simply calm. We talked, first about the view, then about the harvest, his passion for the land and the wine evident in his words. He didn't ask about my story, and I didn't offer it, but there was an unspoken understanding, perhaps, of solitude and the comfort found in nature. Over the next few days, our paths crossed occasionally. We shared an espresso at the tiny bar in the local village, walked through the vineyards as he explained the different grape varieties, his conversation easy and undemanding. There were no grand romantic gestures, no intense declarations, just a gentle companionship that felt surprisingly welcome. He saw me, Clara, the woman sketching under an olive tree, not the jilted fiancé. On my last evening, Signora Elena insisted I join her family for dinner. Marco was there too. We ate papa al pomodoro, drank robust local wine, and talked late into the night under a canopy of stars so bright they seemed almost close enough to touch. There was laughter, shared stories, and a sense of belonging I hadn't felt in a long, long time. Looking around the table at these kind faces, bathed in the warm glow of the lanterns, I felt a profound sense of gratitude wash over me. Driving back to the Florence airport the next morning felt entirely different from my arrival. The Tuscan landscape, once a painful reminder of broken dreams, now felt like a supportive embrace. My heart still bore the scar of Liam's betrayal, but it wasn't the gaping wound it had been. It was part of my story, yes, but not the whole story. I hadn't come to Italy looking for love, not after everything. And I certainly hadn't expected to find it. But I had found something profound, the strength to stand alone, the solace of unexpected kindness, the beauty of self-discovery against a backdrop of ancient hills, and the quiet, unassuming warmth of a connection I hadn't anticipated. I hadn't found the love I thought I'd lost, but I'd found a resilient love for myself, and perhaps, just perhaps, the hopeful beginning of something new, nurtured under the Tuscan sun. The title I'd mentally assigned this chapter of my life felt ironically perfect. I never thought I could find love in my trip to Italy. If you liked it, subscribe to the channel and enjoy these other amazing stories.